Good evening, good evening. Hello, thank you for tuning in. We are discussing yet another chapter. We are still in the book, Made Whole, and tonight we are discussing chapter 5, Hooking Up in Other Places. Hooking Up in Other Places pretty much discusses just what the title says. After heartbreak, after um, my mind being all over the place, after having this diagnosis and not dealing with my emotions, I decided to hook up in other places. I looked for validation in other places. I looked for um, a sense of worthiness in other places. And I kind of used the people around me. I would go to different places, just whatever it was, to pretty much fill a void that I had, that I did not learn how to deal with correctly. Um, there was abuse that was involved. So it was like I knew what I didn't want, um, but I had no idea of what I really wanted. And again, it was like just going out on the town, calling, getting just using using the wrong vices. Um, because at this point, I still didn't think that anything was necessarily wrong. Um, I mean, I was in an abusive relationship. That didn't have anything to do with me. I just had this medical diagnosis. That didn't have anything to do with me. Um, so I knew that things were wrong, but I still was not in a place where I was able to find fault or my what's the word I want to say? My wrong in it. I didn't want to take the blame for anything or to confront my actions. It was just all on, well, this person did this to me. That person did that to me. I got into this relationship and I was hurt by it. So I was trying to find things that would um, pretty much would agree with me, take my side. And, at the end of the day, that's not right. Once we start internalizing and dealing with ourselves, we realize that um, we have some part to play in what took place. And even if, there are things that we don't deserve, but in the end, how we respond to those things is what matters the most. How we handle ourselves is what matters the most. Yes, we do not deserve to be treated unfairly. No, we don't deserve the abuse. We don't deserve how people mistreat and mishandle us. But what we are judged on is how we respond to those people, how we see ourselves after that. Do we hold fast to our true identity or do we take what people say as face value? Do we confront our own insecurities? Because there are some, if we are totally relying on other people and then we diminish our own character based on what they say to us versus holding our own, holding on to our own beliefs and our own processes of how we feel like we are. So hooking up in other places was just that, going outside, going out externally, trying to fill voids that should have been done on the inside. The problem was overall is that when we don't address, we use things as scapegoats. We find vices to make up for what we are missing. And in this incident, it's heavily relying on people, and not just like in romantic ways, but in platonic friendships, circle groups, just using people to validate my feelings, to tell me that I was not wrong, to take my side and to feed insecurities that I didn't want to deal with. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that has done that or is doing it now, but it's just something that I'm bringing to the forefront because it's something that does happen. Whether we are doing it or we know someone that is, there are times where we have issues that we do not deal with and we use people or places or things to feel that or to justify our wrongdoings. So, one thing that took place in this and will take place when you start attaching yourself to people based on where you are and not really coming from a place of wholeness, you start forming trauma bonds, which is discussed in the book. Trauma bonds, it's like you discuss your trauma, you find someone that has gone through that same thing. So you feel like you got a connection with that person, but you're connected based on hurt. You're not connected based on coming from a whole place or coming from, like a good, pure, honest place. It's like you went through that. Yeah, I went through that too. So you're finding commonality and similarities in things, but you are speaking from a hurt place, not from a healed place. And usually the person that you are attached to has their own trauma that they've dealt with, and nobody's doing the work because we just gonna talk it out. We talking amongst ourselves like we right and hadn't done the work internally. So we're not feeding each other. Well, no, you shouldn't think that way, or that's not the right way to respond, or I learned in therapy to handle it like this. Child, no, he was wrong, and it's like we hype each other up on our wrongness. And it's like, ain't nobody gonna ever get better if we out here trauma bonding and finding somebody that's just validating everything that we feel. So that is discussed in the book. Um, and I'm going to read like the actual definition of trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is a type of psychological bond that can form between individuals who have gone through intense and or traumatic experiences. And that comes from, it was an article from the Healthy Journal. This bond can develop as a result of the shared emotional and psychological experiences of the trauma, leading to feelings of closeness and mutual dependence. The shared trauma creates a sense of familiarity and comfort. When we are attaching ourselves to people and we are not in a place of wholeness, we form bonds that are traumatic. They're not good for us if no one is looking to be whole in the situation or looking to overcome the situation, but just looking for someone to say, oh yeah, you're right, you wasn't wrong, oh don't worry about what they say, that type of thing. We get into a habit where we go to the wrong people, we go to the wrong places, we uses the wrong devices, and we attach ourselves to the wrong thing, and it's usually to get attention. Whatever we missed beforehand, whatever we missed from that person, whatever we missed in ourselves. Remember, I was on this timeline that I thought I had to create. And when I didn't get that from who I was attached to in the moment, I would just find somebody else to attach to. Maybe I can get it from this person. Maybe I get it from that person. It was like just going in a cycle versus stopping and realizing that I do not have control. I have to give up my control. So, what are devices that we use to mask our hurt? What are devices that we use to cover up what we're feeling, what we're dealing with? Like I said, people, relationships, whether that be circles or like, romantic. Of course, I shouldn't say of course, but sex is a thing. Drugs are a thing. Alcohol, going out, clubbing, money, just shopping like we got it because we need to look like we got it. These are the things that are used to cover up and to hide how we really feel or how we really are. And instead of doing the work, we have to look, we at least can look good, whether we are good. Like that's the mentality. We don't want anybody to know that we're going through. So we play the part and we look good. We dress it up and we're out hanging out in clubs however many times a week, giving out our numbers, sitting at the bar, buying drinks, like just not dealing with self. And it doesn't help that society find these things as normal. They normalize hooking up. They normalize going on dating apps. They normalize going on these dates. It ain't really no big deal. I'm just going to get me a free meal. No. It's no big deal. You sitting there and you just giving out your number. It's no big deal. It's okay to go buy a bottle and sit around and drink. It's okay. Smoking don't hurt nobody. It's natural. It's from the ground. It's grown. Not dealing with anything internally, emotionally, spiritually. We just feeding our vices. And society says it's okay. Not just society, but our own circles, our own family members will hype us up. You feeling bad? Come on over. I got something for you. Come hang out with me. Oh, we going out tonight. You ain't gonna stay in this house. Who you want me to put you on with? Let's call so and so. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Like that's the type of behavior that society and some of the people that we are the closest with, they feed us because it's normal behavior for them. Again, trauma bonded. They may have their own issues. They have their own trauma that they deal with. So we're just going to all suffer in this together. Exactly. Nobody has good sense to say, you know what, I don't think this is going well. Let's try something different. And if you're the person that does say that, then they looking at you. What's going on with you? Now, we were just partying it up last week. Now, don't be out here changing on me now. Like, we got this thing, like we go out every Friday. Now, all of a sudden, you over here talking about you want to be changed and you want to do this and you want to do that. But sometimes you have to make choices and leave people out of it. I have learned in the journey that not everybody wants to be well. Not everybody wants to be whole. Not everybody wants to be free. There are people that actually love being in the places that they are. So if you are looking for growth and you are looking for change, sometimes separation is needed. Because them same folks that you was out there running with, they not going to want to hear that. You have to do it for yourself. Now, if they see you on your journey and then something sparks them to do it as well, then hey, you've won a soul over. But that cannot be your primary soul of doing anything and then getting mad because the people aren't joining in with you. 9 times out of 10, the people that you was running with, they're not going to. They may not want it. The Bible speaks on ourselves being temples. We are temples and we are to present our bodies as a living sacrifice. If we are a temple that houses the Holy Spirit and we are to present ourselves as living sacrifices, how in the world can we present ourselves as living sacrifices and be temples that house the Holy Spirit and we out here just doing what we want to do, living life recklessly? In my case, as it says in chapter 5, hooking up in other places, hooking up in the wrong places. That's what that was. I'm a temple with the Holy Spirit residing in me, and I'm at the club, I'm at the bar, I'm getting drinks, I'm passing out my number, I'm on dating apps, I'm hooking up with whoever. Because remember, I got this timeline. Well, we talked about that before. I'm on this timeline where the doctor told me that I need to be making something shake because, at some point I'm going to be reaching that geriatric timeline, and I ain't got time for that. Me and the Lord have had conversations. I don't want to be Sarah. I don't want to be no old parent. So I got to make this thing happen. Just taking matters in my own hands, hooking up in the other places, in the wrong places, but yet I'm out here talking about I'm a child of God's and I have the Holy Spirit. I have Jesus on the inside of me. Yeah, but he living in a dirty environment because everything that I have consumed, whether it has been physically or mentally or spiritually, has not been conducive to the body that he's supposed to reside in. So now I got to deal with myself. I was what you would call thirsty. Thirsty. And not necessarily, like for men, but just thirsty for something. Again, thirsty for the validation. You're thirsty for someone to pay you attention. You're thirsty for someone to say that was wrong how they treated you and I'm here for you. Thirsty for it's okay, don't worry about it. I'm here to comfort you. I was signing people up for jobs that they did not apply for. I was giving people roles in my theatrics that they did not audition for, and then got mad when they didn't play the part. They didn't ask for the part, and I can't make someone play the part. No one is responsible for making you feel validated. Nobody is responsible for making you feel like you are the best in the world. Like, these are things you are supposed to know already. These are things that you have to tell yourself. You cannot look for validation in other people. You cannot seek attention from others or these vices that you keep going to. Remember the list: the sex, drugs, alcohol, these groups that you're hanging out with, these club scenes that you're going to. It's like you're searching for something, but that something is internal. The something is in you that you have to process through. And when we are unsure of who we are, when we are unsure of what we carry, what we house, then we seek it out in others. But who we are is not dependent on what people say. How we are viewed, our true nature, the people that God has made us and created us to be, are not validated by what other people say. We have to believe what God says about us, how we are his children, we are the chosen generation. He took time to knit us together when we were in our mother's womb. Before we were in our mother's womb, he had already had thoughts about us, how we are heirs and co-heirs with Christ. Like, our identity is tied up in who God says we are, but we won't know that if we don't go to him to get the validation. We find it in other people, but he has there's a whole book that tells us who we are. So, one by one, eventually things will cease. If you pay attention and you sit still long enough, you're like, God, this ain't even right. It's like this stuff ain't right. So when you start like internalizing this for real, you will realize that phone calls be stopping. The people ain't calling you. You're not getting those text messages anymore. You don't get the invites out anymore. Your money done dried up. You ain't got the little cash flow that you used to have. And that could very well be God stopping certain things from happening, separating you so that you go to Him and you realize that's not your source. That is not your source. I am your source. Sit down with me. Listen to me. Listen to what I have to say. It has nothing to do. You out here spending money, I'm going to stop the money. We ain't going to the club. We're not going out to the bar. We're not out here buying bottles. We're not out here buying we're not out here buying drugs. We're gonna sit still. They're not gonna call you. And it's no hard feelings. I just need them to pause so I can talk to you. Like it's a real thing. When we become dependent on others, God will shut that thing down. I'm going to read about codependency. Codependency in a relationship is when each person involved is mentally, emotionally, physically, and or spiritually reliant on the other. And we already know that when we start being relying on others, God is like, nope, because you depending too much on that. And I need you here. It goes back to like the woman at the well. It's a familiar story, but this lady would go to the well in the evenings. She would go when no one else was there. And I'm assuming it was because she was shamed for her behavior, because what was she doing? She was out here messing with people's men. When she was confronted by Jesus and he was like, where's your husband? And she said, I don't want to get the story wrong, but I believe she said, I don't have one. And he said, yes, you're right. Like you had a lot of them. Like she found comfort in men that wasn't her husband. Just again, I'm just using my imagination as she was hooking up in other places, but nothing was solidified. We're going from one person to another. But Jesus offered her living water. If you would just take my water, you would never thirst again. You won't be having to go to those people. So go to the living water. Find your comfort, find your joy, find your peace in the one who gives us life. Because he's the one that makes the difference. He's the one that can truly give us our identity, remind us of who we are, remind us that we deserve better, we should be doing better, that we don't have to seek other things for us to realize who we are. Like we're not masking how we're feeling by getting drunk so we can numb the pain. We're not masking how we're feeling by getting high so we don't have to deal with our true emotions. No, we're going to go to him, and just like the Samaritan woman that was at the well, we're going to be straight up and honest. Like, Lord, yep, I'm jacked up. That man that I'm with ain't even my husband. That's, we just out here doing our thing. And I be coming out here because I don't want nobody to see me. I don't want nobody judging me because they always talking about me. Be honest, be real, and let him feel you. Because that is what is going to make the difference. John 4:14, Jesus says, the water I have, you will never thirst again. Jesus said, I have what you need. You need me, living water, a refreshing, a fulfilling, a quenching of your thirst. Jesus knew what she really desired, and that was wholeness. It is necessary to meet self-satisfying love in healthy ways. Once you develop intimacy and love in your own way, you won't accept less than God's best for you. Let's do things the healthy way. Let's use our resource, which is God Himself. Jesus is out here passing out living water where we will never have to thirst again. And based on that, we will not go back or return to things that we know that were not fulfilling for us in the begin with. That's all I have about this chapter. Um, the next video will be on the next chapter, of course, and that is hiding behind work. You would think that by now, after hooking up in other places, being with that guy that had me at hello, getting into relationships, being dealt with this medical diagnosis that I received, you would think that I would have it all together by now. But no. I got one more story to tell before the breakthrough really took place, and that's hiding behind work. So, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and we'll be back tomorrow for the next video. You all